The story begins with Rakuta Setsuna's declaration that in this world, love, morality, law, and justice all play a role. But there's only one true ruler: violence. In one corner of this world, a high school student named Akita is receiving his midterm test results. His teacher congratulates him for topping every subject. Other students admire his consistency since enrollment, praising him for always staying on top. The teacher uses him as an example to inspire the class, partly to maintain her own reputation. Akita smiles politely and thanks everyone for the congratulations. But in his mind he's really thanking them for being idiots. He believes he is far superior to them, smarter than anyone else, and already envisions himself topping Tokyo University and securing a brilliant future. To him, only smart people succeed and get the attention they deserve. He thinks that if they only knew how much smarter he is than them, they'd be taking notes on how to be less stupid. Just then, a girl approaches him asking for help with studying. It is actually the girlfriend of Ashima, a classmate notorious for his violent temper. As soon as Akita steps out of the classroom, Akushima appears and lands a strong punch to his stomach. He asks Akita how he dared to flirt with his girlfriend. Akita, caught off guard, thinks to himself that even this idiot has resorted to violence just because of a girl. Wondering if this is what it feels like to be a human punching bag for Ashima. He suspects Akushima has all muscles and no brain, resembling a monkey with a bad attitude and worse aim. Without wasting time, Akita responds that he'll be more careful next time and tries to leave. But as he walks away, Akushima hits him again and knocks him to the ground. Standing over him, he yells, "Is he looking down on people?" and demands him to get on his knees. Akita considers his options and chooses to kneel, telling himself that it doesn't matter. He knows he's far smarter than Ashima, who despite being an international curate player, is still just an idiot in Akita's eyes. People like him can't survive in society. Just then, a voice cuts through the tension asking, "Are they finished?" It's none other than Setsuna, the violence girl. She walks up and sits beside Akita, offering him a smile. Akita wonders who she is. She then turns to Akushima and challenges him to a fight. Both boys are stunned. Akita wonders that now he has a one-woman wrecking crew. Akushima walks away as if scared of Setsuna while she too walks off, leaving Akita to wonder if she had just helped him. He suspects she might be smart like him. Watching her walk away, he whispers a soft thank you. Meanwhile, Setsuna catches up to Akushima and taunts him for running away. She sweetly mocks him, provoking him with calm but piercing words. She tells him karate isn't a real martial art, especially not the type Ashima has learned. In it, you only pretend to hit your opponent and actual contact is considered a foul. To prove her point, she kicks a stone on the ground, making him feel embarrassed about his training. Frustrated, Akushima gets angry. Exactly what Setsuna wants. She challenges him to a real fight. Akita, watching from nearby, is stunned by her boldness. As Akushima charges at her with a powerful punch, Setsuna stands completely still. He stops his fist just short of her face as if wanting her to flinch, but she doesn't even blink. She smiles faintly, and as regret starts to show in Akushima's eyes, she grabs his fist, strikes his elbow with her other hand, and causes him to scream in pain so loudly that it echoes throughout the school. Setsuna warns him that the real fight has only just begun. Akushima attacks again and again, but she dodges every strike with ease. It's as if she's observing him in slow motion. Akushima grows furious, wondering why none of his hits are landing. Setsuna reminds him of his second-ranked national status and casually says in her eyes, "He's just average." His face turns pale with anger and embarrassment. He yells that he'll now attack with full strength. Setsuna smirks and tells him this is where the fun begins. Recalling his training, Akushima charges at her with his special move, Lightning Thrust. A technique so fast it allows no time to react. He aims his fist at Setsuna's face, hitting her hard. She staggers back briefly, blood dripping from her nose, but quickly recovers and knocks down with a single blow. She praises the move as impressive, but explains that the pain he caused didn't even make her see stars. While he lies on the ground, she calmly lectures him on proper fighting techniques. She explains that if he really wants to bring someone down, he should aim to knock them out, not use weak punches. From a distance, Akita watches everything and is fascinated. He thinks she's an unusual beauty, someone who just dominated a man in combat. Intrigued and impressed, he approaches Setsuna and asks her to teach him how to fight. She pauses to think. Meanwhile, Akita considers that fighting might be a bad thing, but if he learns it, it could help with self-defense. As he's lost in thought, Setsuna steps closer, places both hands on his shoulders and comes very near to him. Akita, stunned, wonders what's happening. Then suddenly she smiles and punches him hard in the face, sending him flying backward. He screams in pain and stares at the blood, confused. He stares at his own blood, wondering if this is how people say thanks for the lesson in the worst possible way. When he asks why she did that, she poses a strange question. She tells him to imagine watching a lion devouring a zebra. Would he pet the lion and call it a good boy? Akita answers, that only a crazy person would do that. Satsuna tells him that's the correct response and connects it to their current situation. She then kicks him again and asks why he thought she wouldn't hit him. After all, she is the strongest one here. Setsuna explains that in this world, love, morality, or justice don't protect anyone because they're all just fiction. She declares that right now she can make him do whatever she wants. What? Because violence is the only thing that truly rules. Though Akita doesn't fully understand her words, he knows she's right. If she wanted to, she could kill him right here. All he could do was kneel and beg for mercy. Satsuna smiles and tells him this is how he'll live the rest of his life. As she walks away, Akita wonders if she's secretly auditioning for the role of human earthquake, thinking deeply, then suddenly rushes at her from behind to punch her. She swiftly turns and slaps him so hard that blood spills from his mouth and he falls to the ground, and he realizes that being slapped by her is probably how most superheroes feel when they're training, except without the cool theme music. As he begins to lose consciousness, he remembers a dream he once had. That he was a strong person, free to unleash violence however he wanted. No matter the cost, he was ready. Then everything fades. When he wakes up, he finds himself lying in his bed. The next day at school, Akushima's girlfriend asks Akita about Akushima's sudden absence without any notice. Akita ignores her and instead thinks about Satsuna. He tells himself that what happened must have been just a bad dream. Violence, after all, is for fools. He must focus on becoming even smarter. Yet, he wonders, what was a student from another school doing here? Just then the teacher enters to make an announcement. And to everyone's surprise, Setsuna steps into the classroom introducing herself. She says her hobbies are cooking, sewing, and watching theater, and quietly adds violence. The class laughs, all except Akita, who knows exactly what she means. Satsuna recognizes him and walks over, smiling as she announces in front of everyone that yesterday's violence was great and that they'll have to do it again sometime. The class falls into stunned silence, and thus begins the story of the real violent girl. It has been a week since Satsuna transferred to the school. Within the short time, she has already made a bunch of friends, and those friends seem to adore her. Compliments come her way constantly, and it appears she has blended into the class effortlessly. But while most people are charmed by her presence, Akita cannot forget the day she appeared out of nowhere and defeated Ikishima. That very same day, she also attacked him, leaving him with a nasal injury and a crown fracture that even now remains incomplete. His body still aches from the damage she inflicted. And rather than healing, the pain seems to be nurturing a deeper hatred within him. As these bitter thoughts brew inside him, Satsuna suddenly walks over to him, offering a warm smile and a cheerful morning greeting. Akita is stunned, wondering if she's completely lost her mind. How can she greet him like this, like nothing ever happened, barely a week after giving him such a brutal beating? His confusion quickly turns into frustration, and he bursts out, yelling at her not to ask him how he's doing. He reminds her in front of the class that she's the very reason he's in this miserable state. The class goes completely silent, tension heavy in the air. At that moment, Ikushima's girlfriend steps in, demanding to know why Akita is yelling like that. It is only then that he noticed just how loudly he had raised his voice. But part of him realizes that yelling at her is like yelling at a brick wall. Neither one will care. She then walks over to Satsuna and with suspicion asks her about her boyfriend. Satsuna acts like nothing's changed. Akita wonders if she's secretly a superhero who doesn't remember who she saved or beat. At the same time, he knows full well that it was Satsuna who beat him up and wants to keep this information to himself. He doesn't want to involve himself in any of her matters and simply wants to keep his distance. School ends, and on his way home, Akita boards a train and notices something unsettling. Satsuna is also on the same train. Watching her from across the space, he begins to wonder, where does she live? What is her life like? What kind of parents does she have? Before he can dig too deeply into these thoughts, the train announces the next stop and Satsuna gets off. Akita feels a small sense of relief, but curiosity gets the better of him and he starts to follow her discreetly. He's genuinely intrigued to see what she does after school. He watches her head toward a commercial district, an unusual place for a high school girl to hang out alone. Lost in thought, he suddenly bumps into another girl and unfortunately his drink spills all over her skirt. She immediately raises a ruckus, shouting that her skirt is expensive and demanding compensation. Akita tries to explain that it wasn't intentional, but a few thuggish-looking boys from the alleyway overhear the commotion and approach him. They tell him he'll have to settle the matter. With no other option, suddenly a street gang member opens his purse and hands over 30,000 yen to the girl. One of the gang members smirks, telling him he's lucky this time, but warns that if he doesn't have money in the future, they won't hesitate to beat him up. Akita looks at them in disbelief, thinking that these guys really are dumb. Taking 30,000 yen over just a shoulder bump. He begins comparing their lack of intelligence to his own mental sharpness. Still, he doesn't have the strength to fight back. Nor does he see any clear path to escape. He tells them he'll pay the rest later, but they just laugh in his face, mocking him. Just then, Satsuna appears at the scene, silently observing. Akita wonders, has she come to help him? As if preparing for battle, Setsuna gets into position and suddenly charges toward them. It seems like a 1 versus 3 situation. With shocking speed, she raises her leg and slams her knee directly into Akita's face. Blood spurts out of his mouth and he stumbles backward, crashing into the gang members. Regaining a bit of composure, Akita screams at her. Why did she hit him instead of the enemies? And he's suddenly questioning all his life choices, that did he really deserve this? With an innocent expression, she explains that she was trying to knock him out in one go, but unfortunately it didn't work. Akita, holding his nose, wonders if this is what friendship looks like in Setsuna's world, where hitting people is just part of the fun. Akita is completely dumbfounded. She then grabs his hand and tells him to come with her. But one of the gang members calls out behind them, questioning whether she's really messing with them and whether she's friends with Akita. If that's the case, he warns she won't be allowed to escape. He steps toward her, pulling at her shirt, commenting that she's cute. Then he offers her a sweet job, saying that if she's struggling for money, she could use this job to pay off her boyfriend's debt. Satsuna stands still, staring at him in silence. Then, out of nowhere, she asks if this punk is seriously trying to promote nonviolence. Without warning, she delivers a brutal elbow strike to his face. His nose breaks, blood pouring out as he collapses to the ground, screaming. She knows that this one way is best to get someone to stop talking. Setsuna then issues him a warning not to grab an enemy by the neck. It's the worst strategy because it disables both offense and defense. She adds that this was the perfect opportunity for her to act. The rest of the gang charges toward her, but she skillfully takes them down one by one. Soon the alley is filled with groaning bodies on the ground, all writhing in pain. And Akita thinks that if he had $1 for every thug she just knocked out, he'd be rich enough to pay them back. But he is not going to. She turns to the girl with the soiled skirt, the same one who had yelled at Akita earlier. The girl trembles, drenched in fear and sweat, pleading that she's a woman and should not be hit. But Setsuna punches her heart and tells her that violence is equal for everyone. Akita stands there stunned. Setsuna has just turned 4 people into a bloody mess. He realizes just how strong she is. He looks at Setsuna like she's a human tornado. But more terrifying than her strength is her complete lack of awareness of what's normal. Once she decides to attack, she doesn't stop for anyone in her way. This Akita thinks makes her a truly antisocial and violent girl. She then turns back to face him and Akita instinctively gets into a fighting stance. He believes she's going to attack him again, but instead she asks, why is he acting like that? She has no intention of hitting him. Why would she? Hearing this, Akita yells at her, then why did she hit him so hard earlier? With the sweetest voice, Satsuna replies that it's because they're friends. In a dimly lit and grimy hideout that serves as the gang's headquarters, the 3 gang members, bruised, battered, and visibly shaken, stand before their boss, Shiai. He lounges arrogantly with girl by his feet, but their arrival interrupts his entertainment. Shiai listens, surprised as the 3 confess how they were thoroughly beaten by a high school girl. At first, he can't believe it, as if this is the weirdest thing he's ever heard. Is this some kind of joke? His voice carries disbelief. The men hesitate, but one of them insists that the girl is a martial artist. He tells him she broke his nose with a single blow. Shiai blinks, asking him is he sure she's not secretly a ninja. As this revelation lands, the girl beside Shiai suddenly begins coughing. Displeased, he coldly tells her she's no good at lifting his mood and without hesitation punches her in the face. The blow sends her sprawling across the floor like he's swatting a fly. The rest of the gang watches in fear, no one daring to move. Shiai straightens up, his expression sharp and cruel. He says they'll have to kidnap the girl. According to him, this is the best way to settle things. A high school girl is perfect, he says. And they could even make money off her by filming her. One of the gang members raises a concern. What they're talking about is clearly a crime. If they get caught, it could turn into a serious issue. Shiai scoffs. He blames the modern generation's low testosterone levels for this kind of thinking, as they are soft. According to him, young men need to work harder, get tougher, and build stronger muscles so no one can beat them. He tells his gang that as long as they're holding a woman, they can make her do whatever they want. These are rules he claims that they should never forget. Then, as if nothing happened, he orders them to head to the gym. The next day, at the end of class, Satsuna walks up to Akita. She suggests they go have lunch together. Akita refuses, but Satsuna doesn't take no for an answer. She shows him the lunch box she brought stuffed with various dishes. The bento box packed like a survival kit, as Akita stares at it and wonders aloud if she's some kind of bodybuilder. Satsuna explains casually that protein helps wounds heal faster. Then without hesitation, she hands the bento over to him. As they eat, Akita decides to ask her a question. He wants to know, are they eating together because they're friends? She simply replies with a yes. Akita then pushes further. Even if they put aside what she did to him in the past, beating him so badly, why him? Why choose someone like him as a friend when there are people stronger than he is? She answers, saying that friends aren't chosen based on strength. There's more to it. She starts to say something but pauses mid-sentence, leaving Akita curious about what exactly she meant. She chuckles lightly, and before the moment develops further, Akushima's girlfriend shows up. She teasingly asks if there's some kind of lover's quarrel going on. Akita quickly tells her to stay out of it, while Satsuna interjects, saying that Akita needs to understand that it's not about strength or weakness. It's about dignity. And then to sum everything up, she declares that the real point is being able to do the right thing at the right time. But Akita nods slowly, still thinking about the 2 kilograms of chicken in her lunch. Akushima's girlfriend giggles and leans close to Akita, whispering into his ear with amusement, asking if this is some kind of sexual talk. Then she walks away. Meanwhile, outside the school, a van waits in the shadows. Inside, the gang discusses their mission to kidnap Setsuna, but a debate breaks out. One of them questions the morality of what they're about to do. If they go against Shiai, they fear he might harm them too. They talk amongst themselves about Shiai's dirty business, how he forces girls into a so-called love business, and if the girls can't pay off their debts, he keeps them. If any girl manages to escape, he goes after her. They wonder what exactly Shiai does to keep girls from escaping. Slowly it dawns on them. He uses violence. That's what keeps the fear alive. One guy starts panicking that what if Sho turns on us? The driver, getting nervous from the conversation, yells at them to stop talking nonsense. At that moment, they spot Setsuna approaching in the distance. The gang quickly gets into position. Ignoring bystanders, they drive the van straight toward her, snatch her off the street, shove her into the vehicle, and speed away. As the van rushes through the streets, they grab her and celebrate until one guy suddenly flies out the window like a malfunctioning action figure. At the same time, Shiai receives a phone call. He expects it to be his gang, but instead a cold, clear voice speaks. It's Satsuna. She's calling from her own phone. Calmly, she tells him that she's on her way to meet him directly. Setsuna asks why he wants to meet her. Shiai, caught off guard, asks if she's the same girl who beat up his gang. Hearing that, Satsuna begins to laugh. Shiai shouts into the phone, threatening her. If she keeps this attitude, he says he'll kill her. He warns her that if she cares about her family's safety, she'll need to work for him. She responds with curiosity, asking if he's talking about a fight. Then she suggests that he should introduce himself first before making threats. Shiai responds coldly, saying he can't stand being looked down on by a woman. He ends the call with a smirk, already thinking to himself that this wound is going to be interesting. Meanwhile, Akita is sitting right in front of him, apparently already kidnapped before Satsuna. Akita is tense and sweating. His mind races with fear. This is the worst. Just after finishing high school, he's been kidnapped. Sweats like he's in a sauna made of anxiety. He stares at the man before him, the notorious Shiai, and mutters that it's obvious someone like him wouldn't have any job besides running a half-baked gangster squad. Then, unsure and anxious, he asks what Shiai plans to do with him. Shiai, lounging like a predator enjoying his catch, calculates silently. He figures he'll need 3 million yen to cover medical expenses, doctor fees, and everything else. When he finally says the number out loud, Ada's eyes widen in disbelief, bordering on madness. Lean forward, Shiai gets close to him and suggests, that if Akita introduces him to a schoolgirl the amount could be reduced. As he offers a discount, Akita considers it for 0.2 seconds before realizing he'd rather die than talk to another girl right now. But right now, Shiaji is more focused on paying Akita back for the things his so-called girlfriend said on a phone call. With a smirk, he throws a punch toward Akita's face. Panicked, Akita quickly protests. He yells that Shiaji has got the wrong idea. Setsuna isn't his girlfriend. In fact, before she beat up Xiaoi's gang, she had beaten him up just as badly. Shiaji pauses. His hand lands on Akita's shoulder, not with kindness but with mock sympathy. He says that if that's the case, then both of them are victims of Setsuna. He offers a fake apology, clearly toying with Akita's fear. Akita wonders for a moment. Does this mean he's safe now? But the moment shifts. Shoji calls a girl over to him. He turns to Akita and says that if he doesn't want to be looked down upon by women, he'll need to rely on muscle, adding that he needs to start going to the gym. Dripping with sweat, Akita listens as Shoji keeps talking. Then suddenly Shoji calls him over and asks a blunt question. Is he a virgin? Caught off guard, Akita admits that yes, he is. Shoji immediately mocks him for it, pushing shame onto him like a weapon. He cackles like he just won roast battle of the year. Then, in a shocking display, Shoji rips the clothes off the girl standing beside him and tells Akita that this is what he has to do first. Akita freezes in shock. Shoji tries to soothe him, saying, this is a free service and he shouldn't worry too much. He instructs the girl to go over to Akita. The girl walks slowly toward Akita, who is now completely paralyzed by disbelief. Thoughts race in his mind. Is this really happening? But he knows if he refuses, Shoji might beat him to death. He looks at the girl again and notices the bruises and scars on her body. She's clearly been through far too much. Seeing Akita hesitate, Shoji barks that there's no need to overthink. This girl has already serviced plenty of others. She's just a tool, nothing more. But as the girl approaches, Akita reaches out, takes her hand and gently stops her. He tells her that she doesn't have to do this. Shoji, surprised, asks what the problem is. Akita responds firmly. He doesn't want to do this. Not because he's some kind of feminist, but because forcing someone into anything is simply wrong. Shoji's confused, thinking that is this kid broken? Even the girl looks shocked. No one said no before. Shoji raises an eyebrow of the sudden morality, then smirks and says that Akita is talking pretty big now. If he were a girl, maybe he'd even be impressed. But Shoji sneers and declares himself a hard guy. Then, almost like performing for a sick audience, Shoji starts yelling, boasting that he's the kind of hard guy who runs a cringy brothel for customers like he's running a 5-star hotel for creeps. He laughs loudly at his own words, turning Akita into the butt of his joke. Even the girl, out of fear, laughs along. Shoji mocks Akita ruthlessly, ridiculing his resistance. But Akita, now boiling inside, clenches his fists. His thoughts turn sharp and clear. According to the law, anyone who commits an act of violence should be punished. His knuckles tighten, and in the next second, Akita slams a hard punch right into Shoji's face. This is a right hook from the depths of his soul which lets Shoji fly. The blow knocks the gangster boss off his feet and sends him crashing to the floor. Akita stands there, heart pounding, breath caught in his throat. In his mind he panics. He remembers what he was taught. That life throws people into moments where things spiral out of control. In those moments the only thing you can do is strike. And with that blow still echoing through the room, he thinks to himself, long live violence. For the first time in his life, Akita has hit someone with real intent. He doesn't regret it. Everything he's been through, the betrayals, the humiliation, the pain, he's had enough. He wants to let it out, all of it. His mind doesn't resist this urge either. It supports his decision to unleash his fury, to let go, to strike. So even when Shoji retaliates like a malfunctioning washing machine on spin cycle, pinning him down and beating him, Akita doesn't feel pain. Not in the way he expected. It's as if his body has chosen to numb itself for this moment. Shoji stands over him, fists flying, and yells that Akita must be completely crazy. He says Akita knew he was weaker, that Shoji had the upper hand in strength, yet still chose to take a risk. That kind of recklessness, he says, is just stupid. He laughs and says he's going to hit him 5 more times. As his fist rise again, a presence behind him makes him pause. Satsuna is there. Shoji turns to look, the smirk on his face growing. He recognizes her immediately and mocks her with a grin, asking if she's really the infamous Satsuna. On the ground, Akita barely clings to consciousness, bloodied and bruised, whispering her name. Satsuna sees Ida's condition and goes completely silent. The sight of him like this hits her harder than she expected. Shoji notices her silence and taunts her. He asks why she's gone quiet if she's suddenly feeling concerned about Akita. He tells her he's not going to let Akita go and suggests she should get on her knees and beg if she wants mercy. Maybe then he says he'll consider sparing him. But Satsuna doesn't kneel. She smiles. She looks him dead in the eyes and asks if he's the kind of dog that only knows how to bark but doesn't have the bite to back it up. The insult slices straight through Shoji's ego. His grin disappears. His anger takes over. Without hesitation he yanks off his shirt like a budget and I'm villain, baring his chest and getting ready for a real fight. Mercy and threats are no longer part of his mindset. Now it's only about violence. He remembers how she tore his gang apart and he tells himself not to underestimate her. He lifts his fist and prepares to strike. But Satsuna is faster. She lunges at him with sharp, powerful movements. She hits him again and again, giving him no chance to defend himself. Then grabbing his head, she slams it down onto her knee with force. Every hit is deliberate and brutal. Still, Shoji isn't just some street thug. He's never trained in martial arts formally, but he's learned the rhythm of combat from fighting dozens of opponents. He understands timing. He knows how to dodge before a blow lands and how to wait for the right moment to strike. He finds that moment with all this strength. He counters her assault and delivers a crushing blow that sends her flying backward. She crashes to the ground. Akita, still dazed, watches this with growing fear. Seeing her get hurt shakes him, but he can't move. Shoji celebrates like he just beat the final boss. Shoji steadies himself, his breathing heavy, and mentally resets. Now he knows exactly how this fight has to go. He tells himself he's not going to let Satsuna get close to victory. He walks toward her, vowing to teach her a lesson in real fighting. He tells her to stand up and face him. As he approaches, Satsuna suddenly shifts into position. Her legs move quickly, wrapping around his waist like a human spaghetti. She pulls him into a tight crochet, a move from judo. Shoji doesn't understand what's happening. He's never seen this before, but she knows exactly what she's doing. Using her legs and leverage, she yanks him down, flipping him hard onto the ground. She mounts him immediately, securing the top position and locking him in place. She looks him in the eyes and asks mockingly where all those big fighting concepts have gone now. She reaches behind her head and ties her hair back calmly, then launches a powerful punch right into his face. As her fist crashes down, she says clearly that today she's going to show him what real violence looks like. Satsuna, sitting at top Shoji in a mount position, uses its advantage with precision. She knows this posture isn't just about control, it's about power. The world of mixed martial arts, this is where brilliance meets brutality. And most people, especially those without training, have no idea how dangerous it really is. Shoji tries to squirm out, but it looks less like an escape attempt and more like a turtle having a panic attack. From here, the person on top can strike with full force, raining down punches, while the one trapped below can do almost nothing in return. Even if the one underneath tries to fight back, the impact is too soft to matter. Setsuna, fully aware of this, unleashes a relentless barrage of punches on Shoji. Her strikes are unyielding. Her punches come fast and steady like a drum beat at a rock concert. Shoji briefly considers spiritual rebirth because he really needs a new life. She knows that if by some miracle he manages to escape this hold, he'll still have to balance his body weight carefully to regain control. There are techniques to break free, yes, but they demand practice and focus. And who can think clearly when their face is being pounded with such fury? Shoji is completely trapped. She's created a prison of fists from which there is no easy way out. He realizes now under the weight of her strikes that if she keeps going like this, he might actually die. Fear starts to creep in. His thoughts spiral. He remembers how he once worked so hard to become strong because women used to mock him. He had vowed to never be weak again, to rule over women. That was his truth. That was his strength. With that anger and shame fueling him, he summons what little strength he has left and throws a punch upward, landing it on Setsuna's face. The strike causes her to pause just for a moment. She looks down at him and speaks. She asks if he really thinks that only strong people win fights. Then, with a voice filled with both menace and clarity, she tells him the truth. In this world, the deepest and most fascinating force is violence itself. And as soon as those words leave her lips, she strikes again. This time with such force that the ground beneath Shoji cracks. A dent forms around his head as if the earth itself recoils from the impact. Akita, still recovering, watches this in shock. He asks about the girl from earlier, the one Shoji had tried to force on him. Satsuna tells him she ran away. Akita then notices something. Shoji is still breathing. She assures him that Shoji is used to taking beatings. He'll be fine soon enough, but then she turns her attention to Akita and asks if he's okay. Hearing that question, something inside Akita stirs. In a deep, almost hollow voice, he responds. He says, it's all her fault. All of it. This entire fight, all the chaos, she started it. Because of her, he ended up in this violent mess. Though he's just upset his after-school plans didn't involve bone-crunching violence. He tells her that his life was supposed to be something else, something completely different. But now violence is pulling him in. Satsuna listens quietly, surprised by his words. He continues. He tells her that if there's one thing he liked about this whole situation, it's that at least he got to hit someone who truly deserved it. Then looking into her eyes, he makes a request. He wants to learn how to fight from her. She asks him why. Why now? Akita gives her one reason. The only reason he wants to be able to stand against her one day. Hearing that, Setsuna smiles and wraps her arms around him, pulling him into a quiet, sincere hug. She whispers in a soft voice, welcoming him to the world of violence. And so begins a new chapter in this twisted tale, a moment of awakening. Later at night, a group of men huddle under the darkness, whispering about something strange. They speak of Suji, an old samurai practice from the past, where a swordsman would challenge strangers to test his skill. The man scoffs, reminding him of the current year, mocking him for bringing up ancient traditions. But the first man insists. He says he's heard stories of a boy challenging random people to fights. The other guy shrugs. He says he doesn't care. If the kid shows up, he'll just knock him out. And then in the shadows, a figure steps forward. It's a boy. He calls them out, inviting them to fight under the quiet of the night. That boy is AKA. And he challenges them openly, fearlessly. Both of them go from this is stupid to oh no, he's real faster than they can finish a cigarette. And from that moment, a new story of violence is born.